In today's episode, we're talking about what it means to be a true team in your relationship. We're going to uncover 6 key signs that you and your partner are working together and where you might need to grow. Stick with us to the end. You won't want to miss these tips for building a stronger, more connected team. Coming up next on Master Your Marriage. Well, so we just got back from our annual retreat and it was just the two of us, snuggled up for the weekend, planning out the year and making sure that we are aligned on what really matters to each other in our relationship.
So fun.
And if you've been following us for a while, you know that this has become a yearly ritual and one of the most important things that we do as a couple.
Yeah, we had a great weekend up in Park City, Utah. Spent the weekend together working on deep work.
Yeah, so much fun. I like the deep work. I love that.
So that's because last year we read this book together called Deep Work by Cal Newport.
Yep.
And it's all about creating focus and success in a world that is so hard to focus in.
Yeah, just so chaotic, right?
So full of distractions. And honestly, that is what this annual tradition, our ritual is for us. It's a way for us to do deep work, our relationships, deep work.
Yeah, we never really knew that it was, necessarily deep work. We just knew that it was this distraction-free opportunity for us to get a lot done. And then we read the book and we're like,
that's what we do.
This sort of explains what our annual retreat does.
And why it works so well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And over the last 10 years, this tradition has become, Robert calls it our secret weapon. And that's because it's made us more intentional in how we show up for each other and help each other meet each other's needs every day.
Yeah.
It's given our relationship more depth, more meaning, more purpose. It's made us better friends. We focus more on what truly matters, I think, instead of all the distractions. So it's been a huge game changer for us.
Yeah. I mean, where else are you going to have an opportunity to come together and then in kindness, as you learn about some of the things we're going to talk about today, where else are you going to have this opportunity to kind of figure out the best way to make your partner happy and to meet their needs?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's really what this retreat is about.
Yes.
Right. So, for the past, so Charlotte said we've been doing this for 10, 12 years. And for the first several years, this retreat was just something we kept to ourselves. It was our sacred little tradition. But a couple of years ago, we decided to share it. In fact, over the last 2 years, we've done a broadcast from our retreat. We've been walking other couples exactly how we do our retreat and even sharing those, some little secrets with them.
And actually, while we're on that topic, before we go on, I actually wanted to just interrupt you and mention that we've been taking all of our notes and all of our step-by-step processes, and we put it into a workbook.
Right.
And that workbook actually also includes a little over 2 hours of instruction, which has additional insights that are not found in the workbook. And that's all available online now. I should mention really quickly that if you're interested in getting it, you can find it at bit.ly/goals for couples. So Bitly, it's a Bitly link, bit.ly/goals for couples. Sorry, go ahead and keep going.
No, that's great. And just to piggyback on that, that's where you're going to learn all of the really cool secrets about how to get down to it.
Right. And how to do what we've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But let's get back to the retreat. The most important part of our weekend getaway is getting super clear on one another's values. And I don't just mean the obvious one, family or love. I'm talking about those deeper, often unconscious values that quietly shape and drive our motivations, drive everything that we do. And that is really the real magic for us. Our annual retreat is about syncing up on those values that are so important to both of us and then figuring out a way to build a life around those values.
And we're going to talk about one of Robert's top values today in just a minute.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. Why not?
Which is
right?
Teamwork.
Yeah, teamwork, baby.
Intent.
Let's make it work.
Before we get to that, one of the most common questions, I guess I would say, that we get about why we do this is, why do you do it every year? Isn't it redundant? I mean, your values are probably the same this year as they were last year, right?
I don't know. Things change.
Right?
Things change. People change. And when we shared that on this last weekend with the people that joined us, how in our lives we've changed from one year to the next.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
the answer is no, it's not redundant. Values change, they shift, they evolve as life happens to us. What might have been mildly important to us last year might be a top priority item for you this year, and vice versa. So life has an interesting way of reshaping what matters to us. And so we've found that doing this every year and kind of checking in with each other on our values makes certain that we are staying on the same page year after year rather than growing apart.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a funny story about this. After we listed and sorted and sort of ranked our values for this last year, we sat down to talk about our top 5 or top 6.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, that's everything. This step is important when you start to rank order and then talk about those top values. Like, why are your values important to you?
Yeah.
And so this year we wanted to get a sense of why the values were so important to each one of us and understand that. And as you understand those values, you'll learn how you can better support one another, how you can become more connected. And it sort of, you breathe life into that value for the other person. And how fun is that when you tell me that something's important to you and I ask you how I can help you with that?
Oh, it makes you feel totally seen and understood in a way that isn't superficial. It's like, wow, you really get me, even at an unconscious level.
Right.
And
right.
so there's a couple of questions that we do ask each other to better understand, because understanding is everything, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not just understanding that teamwork is important to you, but really understanding the why it's important to you. And there's a few questions we use to be able to articulate why that is so important. So what are these questions?
Well, and we did a demo on that video.
Yeah,
right?
we did.
Where we did the one where compassion, and I asked a couple questions. What was the first one?
Well, the first question is there a story behind this value for you?
Yeah. And then the next one would be like, why is this value so important to you?
And the next one would be, what feelings come up when you think about this value?
And maybe a harder one is, how will you know when you're living in alignment with this value?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that takes a little bit of thought. And then, as Robert always says, this is his favorite and probably the most important question we ask each other is, what do you need from me to support you in being able to live this value?
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the beginning of teamwork. How can I support you in being your best?
Right. And so, as we just said, Robert, one of his top values is teamwork. And what's interesting is this is a value that's been in his top 5 for probably the last 3 or 4 years.
Probably has, yeah.
Maybe as long as we've been doing it. Since it's been there at the top of his list for a few years now, naturally, I wanted to dig into that one a lot more. So, of course, I asked these questions that we just shared with you, but something funny happened. I want to share that. Can we share that story?
Yeah, I'll share that story. So, oddly enough, up in the same place up by Park City, we did this winter sleigh ride one time. I think it was a Halloween sleigh ride.
This was a few years ago.
Yeah, a number of years ago. And so, there was two horses pulling this sleigh that, I don't know, had 15 people on it. And some of the people are a little bit sensitive to, how the guy who's driving the horses was treating one of the 2 horses. They have reins, and he wasn't necessarily whipping him, but he was getting after the reins on one side more than the other. And remember, this lady said, why are you picking on that one horse? And he said, oh, I'm not picking on him. He's just lazy. This one will let the other one do all of the work. And it's not fair. So I just get after him and remind him that he has to do a little bit more. And so what did you say when I said that?
So when I'm asking him these questions about why teamwork is so important to me, he tells me this story.
Yeah.
And I'm like over here going, okay, well, I don't want to make assumptions, but I think he's telling me I'm the lazy horse here.
It was so cute. She goes, you mean I'm the lazy horse?
And what was really cute about that is that he said, no, I was thinking that I'm the lazy horse, which is far from the truth. I mean, Robert can get the whole garage cleaned out in the time I take a bath, and he gets so much stuff done. So I'm thinking I must be the lazy horse if he's telling me this story. So anyway, when I was asking Robert these questions, his answers really, though, did get me thinking that teamwork isn't just this nice idea for him. I mean, it's been coming up for years now. It's one of his core values. And so it's clearly important. And it really does show up in everything that he does, from how he approaches our relationship to how he works with others. how he works professionally. And honestly, it just makes so much sense that teamwork is part of his top values.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Teamwork makes the dream work, right, baby?
Yeah, that's what they say.
I would, you know, as odd as that sounds, and especially when I say teamwork makes the dream work, I think about, I would much rather do anything with you than realistically do it on my own. And so I think that just brings me satisfaction.
That's sweet.
And as we've talked about, as we talked about last weekend, I honestly believe that when Charlotte and I are pulling together, like any relationship,
like
I think
two horses.
Like the two horses, right? As long as one of them's not a lazy horse. When you're pulling together, I've always believed that when Charlotte and I pull together, there's nothing we can't accomplish. Strong teamwork really does create better outcomes, whether we're talking about business or relationships or life in general. And, from the work environment, 91% of employees say that feeling valued as part of a team motivates them to do their best every day. And 91% is a huge number. And it really speaks to this power of can we come together? For the longest time, people asked me what I did, and I said I build teams because I really just believe in that. And so in my work environment, I want to build high functioning teams. In my marriage, the same thing. I want to build a high functioning team because I really feel like there's so much more you can get done.
Wow, we just got a big insight into Robert's unconscious mind.
I probably did, yeah.
We got a whole little look into his inner psychological world right there, which is why these questions are so great.
We opened up the lid and peeked inside.
We've also talked before about how NBA teams that have more physical touch and connection, like high fives and fist bumps, they actually have higher win percentages than teams that don't. So it's not just sports or business. This also totally applies to our marriage as well. Couples who work together as a team are more likely to stay happily married compared to those who just kind of passively let life kind of just happen to them.
Yeah. And I think it's part of human nature to really want to be part of a team.
For sure.
Whether it's at work, whether it's in sports, or whether it's in a relationship, there's something really deeply fulfilling and connected about knowing that you're in this together, whether you're in the suck, whether you're standing there holding up the trophy. Like there's something amazing about we did this together and to be part of something. When you listen to people talk about some of the greatest sports teams ever, or even some of the greatest high performing teams together, they're wistful about it. Like, oh man, we conquered that. We killed this. We did that. Right. And I love the we.
I can just see how excited you are and how teamwork lights you up, right?
That's what it is.
And that's exactly why we wanted to dive into this topic today. And now we kind of want to go a little deeper and talk about what teamwork actually looks like in a relationship. We talk about it. We use nice words. What's it actually look like in real life? Maybe like Robert, maybe it's one of your core values too, or maybe you're married to someone whose core value is teamwork. Either way, being able to understand what that is and practicing it can definitely strengthen your relationship in some pretty powerful ways.
So we wanted to lay out there's 6 signs that you and your partner have a strong sense of teamwork in your relationship.
6 signs.
6 signs. And as we go through these, take a moment to, kind of celebrate the ones that you're already killing it in, right? And that you see in your relationship, and then make a mental note of ones where maybe you want to grow or you'd like to add that aspect to your teamwork in your relationship.
Cool. So sign number one that you have a strong sense of teamwork in your relationship is that you accept influence from each other and you seek for ways to find win-wins or compromises. So I like the word win-win better than compromise. But in any great team, right, both people give a little and they get a little. If one person is always winning and the other one is always losing, that's not teamwork. That's a power imbalance. And compromise or a win-win means finding that middle ground where both people feel like their perspective and they are seen and valued and respected. And if you're striving to be in a mature relationship, a team-focused relationship, you're going to have to get used to having some micro disappointments in your life. Like that's normal.
It's not always going to be everything you want it to be.
Not everything is going to go your way. You're not going to get your way all the time. It's about balancing those wins and losses for the greater good of the relationship. A great teammate knows how to let go of something they want for the benefit of the team. And at the same time, they're also clear about the certain things they have that are not negotiables. But there's a lot of flexibility in other areas. And then they're also emotionally mature enough to be able to manage their feelings when they don't get their way.
I love that. A great teammate sort of knows when to compromise. They know what they can give on, and they also know that it's expected of them that they're not always going to be the one in the limelight. They're also going to be part of this building part.
Yeah, I love that.
I like that.
What's the second sign?
All right. So the second sign that you have a strong sense of teamwork is you have a generally positive perspective of your partner. You feel
so
good
important.
about them, right? So being a good teammate starts with genuinely liking and genuinely appreciating and valuing your partner. If your inner dialogue is focused on how much they nag or how they're never satisfied, then that energy is going to seep out into your relationship.
They're going to feel it.
Yeah, they'll feel it. So think about a sports team. They're constantly saying like good job and high five and celebrating each other's contributions. In a relationship, it's really the same. A good teammate doesn't hold back when it comes to expressing gratitude. I love that. A good teammate doesn't hold back when it comes to expressing gratitude and pointing out what they cherish about their partner.
Yeah. I mean, you think about a team, our son plays volleyball and our team is like the one that we have the lowest score in the league, but yet that team just loves each other no matter what. And they cherish each other no matter what. And it's just constantly like, you did your best.
Yeah. I mean, how much fun is that? So if in your team, in your relationship, you catch yourself sort of spiraling into this negative self-talk about your partner, like, oh, they're wrong or they're this and they're that, like hit the pause, reframe, right? Shifting your perspective can change the energy in your relationship almost instantly.
So on this topic, actually, I think this is so important.
You have another segue?
Because I might do that a few times today.
Oh, that's cool. I like
so, when we've talked about before how early in our marriage, one of the patterns that I had to work so hard on was contempt.
Yeah.
And criticism.
Yep.
And belittling, and the driver of that really was my inner dialogue. If I was thinking nasty things about you and all the ways that you were screwing up as a partner, I felt more, obviously it disrupted me and it disrupted you, but it's also what came out of my mouth. So in order for me to start to shift my own external behavior, I had to really look inward at my inner dialogue and my inner behavior.
Yeah, that's funny too, because I mean, again, I always say that we learn how to fight the way that we watched our parents fight, and we learn how to deal with our partners the way we watched our parents deal with our partners. And, in your family, there was a lot of external dialogue about how everyone was a screw up around them. And so it's not surprising that you sort of had an inner dialogue going because it was just what you had heard all the time.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the third sign that
number three
that you have a good sense of teamwork in your relationship is you accept the little flaws and let the little things go. So Gandhi once said, you can't shake hands with a closed fist.
You can fist bump though.
Okay.
You knew I was going to do that, right?
I was hoping you wouldn't. But if you're constantly angry, frustrated, or nitpicking your partner's flaws, you can't be open to connection.
Yeah.
You can't receive their kindness, their compassion, or intimacy. And as we mentioned earlier, being a mature adult means handling those micro disappointments that are going to be inevitable. So, it's easier to function as a team when you learn to accept each other's imperfections. We all have imperfections. And this is definitely backed by John Gottman's research, which shows that long-lasting, happy couples become more forgiving and more tolerant of each other's little quirks and idiosyncrasies over time. And here's the interesting part about that acceptance often inspires both partners to actually be and become a better version of themselves. It's really a paradox. By accepting, you actually encourage them to grow up.
I like that. I mean, I love that. And you just think about different examples, and you're probably at this point in time when you're listening to this, you're thinking about those things where your partner's got these little quirks and how you've sort of just adapted for that. And you can get frustrated that your partner may have these idiosyncrasies, or you can just decide that there's some version of you just adapting to move around that and giving him strength. Like a perfect sports analogy. I remember playing baseball, and maybe the guy that you're playing maybe you're playing shortstop and he's playing second base, and maybe he sprained his ankle and he can't move to his left very well. Well, there's a ball that's hit to his left. You're automatically going to, if you're a great teammate, you're automatically going to cover. You're going to step over a little farther. You're not going to wave your hands and go, dude, that was your ball, right? A successful teammate is going to step over and cover that little area of weakness so that you guys can succeed as a team.
I love that. I love that. I love that analogy.
There's another baseball analogy.
Of course, we're talking about sports today, so Robert's on fire with those. I just think that paradox also is just so fascinating, that by accepting those little flaws in one another and not nitpicking them, that we actually encourage one another to become a better version of ourselves. But then the flip side of that is also true, which is so interesting, that when we are in constant criticism of that small stuff, it actually does the opposite. It actually, instead of encouraging our partner to become better, it creates defensiveness, and it creates a lot of resentment, which are two things that destroy teamwork in any relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So number 4, you notice and respond to shifts in each other's mood or their energy. Being a good teammate doesn't mean that you need to read your partner's mind or jump to conclusions. In fact, assumptions, right, are one of the quickest ways to escalate or create a conflict, right? So instead, trade your assumptions for curiosity. I always like to say, like, help me understand. I think Charlotte does it even better than I do.
I don't know.
Tell me more about that. Curiosity will do 2 wonderful things for your relationship. 1, it prevents the conflict. And 2, it satisfies this universal human need to feel seen and be heard and be known, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be recognized for who they are. And when you notice a shift in your partner's mood or energy, approaching them with some curiosity as in a loving way and say, like, hey, I see you. Are you okay? Like, I feel a little bit of shift here.
Yeah. So I remember actually just yesterday, I think we were driving home and you were a little somber, and I was like, hey, just checking in. How are you doing over there?
Yeah.
You sad? Are you doing all right? I mean, I didn't want to make assumptions, but you just seem a little bit different.
I think I was sad the weekend was ending.
Yeah. And you were thinking, you were just in deep thought, I think, driving home, and there was nothing wrong, but it was just let you know that I see you.
Yeah.
I noticed that shift in your energy, that shift in your mood.
Yeah. And I think that takes a little while to calibrate yourself and also feel comfortable enough to be able to ask that question.
Yeah.
Right. As we respond lovingly to maybe this mood shift, doesn't mean it's your job to fix your partner's pain or even take away their struggles, but being curious shows that you know them enough to check in when something feels off, much like that example that Charlotte shared, right? And this simple act of just checking in will strengthen the relationship in wonderful ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 more.
Oh, number 5.
The 5th way that you can kind of assess and see how well you guys are doing as a team is you inspire and you believe in one another.
Oh, so much fun.
On any great team, teammates inspire and they believe in each other. And you can see it all over the place. You can see it on the court or in the office work environment. You can see it at home. And it's usually done in really very simple and subtle ways.
Yeah.
It can be as simple as a smile. It can be an encouraging, motivating word. It could be the touch of the hand or a hug. And it can be made sometimes with just eye contact alone, right? We just know that look, right, on our partner's face, and it just means something important to us.
It can be important seeing those looks on each other's face. I love when you're deep into it, when you're doing deep work, and I try not to interrupt you because you're in flow.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just come up and like rub your back or rub your shoulders and then just sort of just like disappear,
I love that.
Yeah. That's just my way of doing it. I don't know if that tells you that I have faith in you, but
so I think we all
just
kind of know each other's the way to boost the other person's mood, like you just described, just to let them know, hey, I'm here. I support you. I'm on your side. Just like you just said, when you do that. And, as I was thinking about this, as we were preparing, one story came to mind where, it was when I was giving birth to our last child and things got a little dicey at the very end. And I just looked into Robert's eyes because I'm always mapping, always reading, just reading the room, but mostly just mapping and reading his eyes. And I just remember this one look on his face. And I was like, okay, I know what that means. That means get this done, Charlotte. And you can do this. I think the look was, you've got this. Now it's time to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was my power moment.
Oh yeah. You powered out.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
I don't even know how you do that, but you did.
Okay, what's our last one?
All right. So number 6, good teammates don't keep score, right? Your opponent is the one who keeps track of winning. Your teammate actually doesn't. So in a healthy relationship, you're rooting for each other. You're working together for overall success of the team or the relationship. Keeping score undermines that teamwork, drastically does. Unfortunately, and back in the 70s, marriage therapy was, I don't know, pretty terrible.
Terrible.
And at the time, there was this really cool, very misguided intervention called give to get. And it's where therapists encourage couples to create these contracts where they would trade the behavior that they wanted from each other. It turned relationships into accounting systems. Like, I did this for you, and why haven't you done this for me? That kind of thinking creates resentment, creates disconnection. And today we know that approach really doesn't work.
Right.
A mature relationship really means stepping out of this transactional mindset, like, oh, once they do this, then I'll do that, right? It's not about waiting for your partner to apologize or waiting to repair until they've met your conditions. When the relationship wins, you both win, and keeping score is a symptom of a struggling relationship. True teammates know that when they focus on the health and happiness of the team, everyone benefits and the team just gets better.
Don't keep score, guys.
Yeah.
Bad
yeah,
news.
That's just lame.
All right. So teamwork is more than just a strategy for a happy relationship. I mean, it is that, but it's also a core value that strengthens your relationship and keeps you pulling together. And as Robert described today, it's a very important value for him.
So we'd like you to take some time to reflect on how teamwork can show up in your relationship and how it aligns with your values as a couple. The stronger your sense of teamwork, the stronger your foundation for whatever life will throw your way.
So thank you so much for being here with us today. Just a quick reminder, be sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss a new episode. And if today's conversation inspired you, if it resonated with you, we'd love for you to leave a 5-star review and a comment, because it really does help us to get the show out to couples who also need this content.
Yeah. And as always, be kind to each other, put each other first. It's the small things done every day that make the greatest impact.
Until next time.